It might be him on my name.
And okay, you ready?
Hello? Oh, I gotta put a light on.
Okay, I'm gonna start, you guys.
You,
Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know, my audio's not working through my computer, so I'm gonna have to use my phone. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Southborough Board meeting on September 27th.
oh, I don't hear you, Chelsea.
You don't hear me?
I do.
Okay,
It's just,
so I'm calling,
it just speak up a little bit, I think is the problem.
okay, usually I don't have that problem. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna call the Southborough Board of Health meeting to order at 7:37. Apologize for the delay. This morning, we have one agenda item for us this morning. So I don't see any public comment or any public participation. So we're going to skip over that. And we're talking about 16 Meadow Lane. So this is a follow-up to our last meeting when Mr. Bemis came before us with Mr. Poutre on a variance request for a septic system that is within 100 feet of a pipe, drain pipe that leads out to the reservoir. So after that meeting, I had requested that we hold off on the vote because I wanted to do a site visit, and Nancy was able to attend the site visit as well. I think it was helpful to see the layout of the landscape and understand where the covers are and kind of see the pipe. Dennis was also there, and he went up and reviewed the pipe, confirmed that it's corrugated steel, and I believe that there was a video filmed of inside of the pipe. So when I bring Mr. Bemis over, he can speak about that. And after that site visit, I did some digging on some documentation that had existed for this particular site. And so Barbara had sent that information over to the board yesterday. And so just some context there. In 1975, there was a Warren article that was to fund doing drainage in the Meadow Lane area. And so then between 1975 and 1979, it looks like a permit was issued by MDC, which is now MWRA, for the service road area and then the pipe into the reservoir. And there were also some proposed easement plans that I can't find any information afterwards that an easement was actually granted to the town for that pipe. So it looks like there were steps in place, but I can't find anything after the fact. So I just wanted you to have that background to know that it wasn't like this pipe just magically appeared. Like there was work done, and it looks like it stemmed from 1975. So I'm going to guess that the pipe is probably around 1980. I did let Karen Galligan know that in DPW because as part of this, there'll probably be an easement that comes forward. So I wanted her to understand kind of the background of the pipe. And so I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions on that piece for the board.
I don't have a question, but I did receive an email from Peter saying I'm ineligible to vote because it was indeed a hearing.
It wasn't. So I'm glad you brought that up. So the letter to the abutters said it was a hearing, but it was not a hearing. And we confirmed that we do not need to do a hearing for a variance request.
So I did not need that to go to because I had to work. As you know, I was intended to go to the meeting, but the ER was 60 deep.
Right.
And I can't leave. And he seemed pretty, well, when we bring him over, because I just don't want to vote and then have this to come up again. Peter seems pretty adamant. I'm not
It was a
able.
public hearing for
Okay, we can
tobacco.
We can certainly talk. Yeah, I think the confusion, Heather, is that the abutter letter said hearing. And we did, I know Barbara confirmed and sent me some documentation. I did check with town council as well, Nancy, that we did not need to do a hearing, but we can certainly talk to Peter when he comes over.
Okay, just because I don't want to vote if I'm not capable of it. Not eligible.
So my question is a little basic. I reviewed all those documents that Barbara sent, and I guess the question I have is, if we granted a variance, if we did, is that going to, the very basic question, will that affect any drainage from the site review or from any experts saying, will, again, Dennis talked to us a little bit about that, but looking at this further, is there, and where are we on that? That's the basic question that we have.
Okay. So,
and did
Barbara,
you guys get any more information from that site review on that? That I couldn't tell. I was working, during the site review, but yeah.
Yeah. So, Barbara, if you wouldn't mind bringing Dennis over, he could probably answer that more directly. Safdar, there was some language in some of the documents that I pulled that was clear that nothing else should tie into that drain pipe.
Okay.
So I think as part of our motion, that
Mhm.
should be part of our motion, is that nothing in the future would tie into that drain pipe,
Okay.
but Dennis can probably answer your
Sure.
direct question.
Sure.
His volume's off.
Dennis, if you can unmute, you should be over now.
Okay, how about now?
Good.
So the question on, is it, so what are the risks? And so the risks are they're mitigated by the barrier. And the barrier is widely used today with a lot of septic systems that do not have separation between different things, not just a drain, but for breakout and for other things. It is an impermeable barrier. It's 40 mil, it's very tough, and it does serve the purpose of doing just that. I still haven't seen, I don't know what they found, how the pipe itself is. You still want to go through this with as little risk as possible. That means you want the pipe that's existing to be completely sealed all the way from the inlet to the outlet. So all that needs to be in place, I believe, before a variance is granted or taken up. I don't know if that clears it up or makes it clear as mud, but so that's what we're really looking at is you are correct, that what's the risk? The risk is definitely minimized. There'll probably always be a risk, whether it's 100 feet away from the pipe or 30 feet with a barrier.
And just to add on to that, and Dennis can correct me if I'm wrong, but environmentally, what they're proposing passes muster.
That's correct.
And just one other thing I'll add before we bring Mr. Bemis over and he can speak about the camera that they put up there. Is I did, in speaking with town council about this topic, I did initiate a title search for this to make sure that nothing comes up. So if we were willing to support this morning, I would ask that we do it contingent upon nothing coming up in the title search. Does that make sense?
Okay, one more, Chelsea,
Okay.
can I ask
Go ahead.
one more thing?
Go ahead.
Reading the letter that was sent to the residents, it asked the board to grant the variance for the continued use of that drain. Okay, you are not doing that. You can only grant a variance from the septic system to the drain. I don't believe you have the legal right to allow the continuance or the discontinuance of that drain. But just to be clear, that language is not what you guys are looking at. You're only looking at the separation from the septic system to the drain as a variance. What happens after the variance, whether the drain stays or goes, that's not under your purview. So the letter is written not quite to the exact variance request.
So do they have to send
So
out
I think-
something new?
I don't know, but it's a little, it's written a little askewed. It's not, all right, the only thing that you have control over is the distance to the drain, period.
Yeah, it
You
sounds
have
like
no
they
control
want
over the drain.
drain, and I don't think that's what we want to do or should have the, yeah.
So you're not allowing the continuance of the drain. You're going to, if you vote in the positive, then you're allowing the septic system to be within that 100-foot setback. The drain
Right.
is not under your purview. Now, it may be,
I think that's a good thing.
yeah, so it's just the way it was written was a little bit, not confusing, but a little different.
I think in the
So
future,
isn't
it would be
this-
helpful if
Shouldn't the state have to, I mean, if they started this whole mess in the 70s, why wouldn't they have some responsibility to do something there? Like, why isn't DPW or one of the state organizations
So,
who deals with the reservoir and everything in
Yeah,
charge
so
of these drains?
yeah, so I did go to the state, Nancy. I did go to the DCR, and they said it was lucky for you, it's all in your hands, the variance process. Now, we could speak with MWRA, they're the water suppliers, which we have not, and I don't know if Peter has, just to make sure,
Okay, so we can,
because that original document did go to the MDC when it was
Okay.
temporary, or however that approval was, that was in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, and the MDC at the time. So,
okay.
So Barbara, if you wouldn't mind bringing Mr. Bemis over. We can funnel all the rest of the questions. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So thank you for the opportunity to present this further. And I guess I'd start with Nancy. I apologize for I'm certainly not adamant about you participating. I just wanted to be sure we were doing things right. And I thought that we thought we took the language verbatim from Title V on what we were supposed to be doing. And I thought the word was hearing. I did look it up when I was talking to Chelsea yesterday, and it does say meeting. So clearly we didn't have to add that word, and I regret doing so. And that has been vetted, and you've apparently did not have to participate in the previous meeting, and I would like you to be involved. You've been to the site, you know firsthand what this looks like, so please accept that. I do have some exhibits to share, and I'm sorry to have made some of this confusing. In the letter that went out, I guess we were saying the continued use, meaning that if we didn't get the variant support from you, then we still want to have a lot here. So we would then, be looking to remove the drain, because there really isn't another way to do this. And I can assure you that, not only did we do our title search, but counsel for the property owner did their title search, and an easement doesn't exist. One was contemplated in 2001, one of the documents that was distributed to you. Another surveyor actually documented what we found as well, which is there is no easement of record. They did show the drain line, but there's no easement. McCarthy and Sullivan did prepare an easement plan on someone's behalf several years before that. That plan is not at the registry, and even if it was, plans with easements on them don't make easements, nor do they make boundaries. The only way you can create that is through a grantor grantee with consideration. So that really is what needed to happen. The property owner at that time would have needed to actually have conveyed to the town of Southborough what's called consideration. Could have been $1, but you have to have some consideration listed there. And that document would have gone to the registry and created the easement. I'm going to start with an exhibit that shows where the drain pipe is, because I think it's more important to start there first. The drain is not where it was supposed to be put either. It's generally where it's supposed to be put. So if you'll allow me to share, is that okay, Barbara? You're not saying no, so I'm going to go, oh, no, I am disabled.
I know, I'm gonna let you do it. I'll let you do it. Hold on.
So would you undisable me, then I'll share.
You should be all set.
Okay, thank you. And this is the drain exhibit. So is that on your screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm going to try to zoom in here as best I can. Here we go. So the drain line is coming. There are catch basins here, and then there's a drain manhole here as my hand's following, and the pipe goes in this direction to this manhole. And we showed you those that went into the field, and then the drain line then passes underneath the driveway that's there that goes up to the water station, and it continues here, and that's the outfall onto the DCR land. So what was originally contemplated was a 30-foot easement, which we've shown here in red, and the pipe is actually over here. So what we've suggested is we do an easement that's shown here in blue, providing a 30-foot easement here, but it would need to be 35 feet here in order to provide what we feel is the proper separation so that a backhoe or something can get through here to do the work. There's a place to cache soils if they ever had to do any work on the drain, but there's just not enough room here to occupy the space. So this would be the new easement plan that we put on record if you support the proposal. I'm going to undo the share and then bring up the videos.
And just to be clear, Peter,
Yes.
that would be the easement proposal that you would bring to the select board, and it would not come back to Board of Health.
That's
Assuming
right.
that
Yeah.
there-
So at that point, if you folks did a vote, it would condition it on that we would be granting an easement, because I have no problem with that condition. That's the exhibit that will be provided to you for that purpose. And then ultimately, we would then go to the Board of Selectmen and then do that proper grantor grantee gifting. And then we can't do that process without the Board of Selectmen accepting on behalf of the town. So that's how we would set that up. Excuse me. And I'm going to start the video. Let me just start the share. I'm assuming you can see my screen now. It goes pretty quickly. You can see that. Okay, so this is the upstream section. So I'm coming from the manhole that is, as you enter onto the property about 35, 40 feet, that's that manhole where it changes direction. So when we call upstream, I'm now coming back to the street so that you can see this. And literally, this is a camera that's on a sled going up the line. And I will say to you, you're going to see a frog jumping at some point here. We did not harm the frog, okay? He looks like he's panicked, but it is okay. I'm not sure if it's going downstream or upstream, but I wanted to caution you on that first. So it is a corrugated metal pipe. It is lined. And then when you bring the corrugations together, this is that section. We did this on Thursday, which was a wet day. So you can see that this is a very sound pipe. And because it's corrugated, it bumps. So I'm sorry for that also. And so that little bit of water that's sitting in there, that's obviously from the rain, and there's a sag in the pipe. And we did this so that we could see that the entire anneal, which is when you bring two corrugated pipes together, there's an anneal located at that location, and then it is fully annealed. And that's the invert is a paved invert. And now we're approaching the manhole that's in the street. And those are the concrete pipes that are going up Meadow Lane, up and down, if you will. And you can see that the manhole itself is sound as well. So I'm going to exit that one. Sometimes with the share, I think it's going to work. Do you still see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So now we're going downstream. So this is actually when we turn and we're coming back parallel with our building, proposed building. You can see there's no holes. The pipe is in very good condition. Now we're about halfway down the pipe along the lot line, and that's when the frog started in. So he's going to go all the way to the end. So we're down, it says 155 feet. We're measuring that as we started from that manhole. So we're well beyond our building now. We're in the back end of the site. And that's basically the, as I said, it was an asphalt base that's in this manhole, and that's where it's peeled back in the lower section of the pipe. We're actually beyond the driveway now. That's the head wall that's just ahead of us there. And that's the stone line channel that we saw when we were in the field. I'm going to go back to the easement plan. So as I said to you, that 150 feet, that was back here, and then the end of it that you saw was here. Our barrier is going to be, here's the manhole. So we're in that top section of the pipe, and then this is the section coming back to the street here. Let's stop the share. So I would provide you with the thumb drive for this. We use a company called John's Sewer and Drain Cleaning, excuse me. And then we were able to do that on Thursday last week. And the easement plan that I showed you here today, again, I would supply you with that. And then I'm fine with the condition of the title search. Like I said, we've done that already, and I'd offer you ours, but I know your town council, and I know he's going to want to do it himself, so it's fine. So I thank you for the opportunity to present this, and I look forward to your support.
Thank you, Peter. Dennis, do you have any reaction to the video before I go to the board?
No, I think the drain looks good, and it's really good information. And I think, as we discussed before, so that information would be, of course, more useful for Karen or somebody at DPW and or the selectmen. So yeah, no, that was good. Thanks, Peter. That was good.
Okay. Okay. Nancy or Safdar, any further follow-up questions for Peter?
No, I'm pretty impressed with whoever put that pipe in. It looks pretty good. And I'm glad the frog was spared. So thank you for doing that.
Doctor, hopefully that gives you a good picture of, I know you weren't at the site visit, but you can see how long that pipe is.
Yeah, no, it did. It really did. I think that was very good. Do you have, in terms of this wall and this barrier, I know Dennis had said that these are very good barriers. They're pretty impermeable. Do we have, any more data on these barriers and in terms of what their specifications should be? And I may have missed some of that before, but is there any sort of thing on that? Because obviously this pipe is functioning very well, which is good to see, but in terms of the barrier itself.
You can see I'm old. So I have to say, for my entire career, this has been the way we do this. So it is not a new technology. Dennis is a little older than me. And Dennis has also been in both sides of this equation. He's been as a administrative side, doing inspections and whatnot. He's also put them in. So he's got really good firsthand knowledge, and so I would encourage you to rely on him. But I would say, from my perspective, this is our go-to tool. We call it a curtain wall because it is essentially that. This does work extremely well. We can build buildings in groundwater tables because of materials like this. We wrap the building in these materials. So I would say to you that there's really, from my perspective, that the risk level is extremely low because this barrier is going to last our lifetimes, our children's lifetimes, and their children's lifetimes, because that's the problem with plastic. It doesn't go away, as we know, and we see it on our beaches. So you have no risk with this, and from my perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
That was
about,
very reassuring to know the long-term issues. Oh, sorry, Dennis. I was going to say that's very reassuring. To know
no,
that something that would
yeah,
last.
so
Yeah.
once again, the barrier itself is widely used. And in the Board of Health office in town of Southborough, they are probably used 25% of the time on repair systems for breakout. So, and they are definitely approved by DEP and what have you. So, and I think we may have a piece of that in the office. So I can show you someday what that is. But yeah, it's a very common engineering practice.
Okay. Are we ready to make a motion?
I have a question for both Chelsea and Nancy. Do you see a downside at this point of not granted? And I know it's a little tough to see. I just feel like, I think the evidence presented is very strong, from a scientific perspective. So
my personal take on this is I don't want it to be precedent setting that the Board of Health is going to grant a variance on new construction. That's what I think the downside is, Safdar, from our perspective. However, I think, it's unfortunate that the steps were not completed on filing these easements, if that's what it sounds like the intent was. And I think with this case in front of us, I don't see an environmental issue with us granting it. And so I don't think we have a good enough reason to prevent somebody from their livelihood. I guess that's my concern is I don't want it to be precedent setting. And that's why I felt like I needed to dig deeper just to make sure that we weren't missing some facts that we should have. And I don't think that we did. And I feel comfortable that, that's what it is. I also believe that I don't want to create any more water issues in that neighborhood in particular, right? And if that pipe comes out, that street is going to be flooded.
I agree with Chelsea wholeheartedly, and I would like to see, and this is totally separate from this, I'd like to see the MWRA taking a better look at what's on around the reservoir on these properties. Where there's one, there's liable to be more, especially if they kind of, Chelsea, you said you look back and in the 70s they were kind of doing these things. So God only knows how many more they're probably in the, we don't know. I certainly don't want to start, as the Board of Health, owning all these, things that were half started and not documented properly. So that is a concern as well. But, I'm sure the MWA has a lot on their plate as everybody else, but it is a little concerning that they just started these things. I mean, they did a great job, as we've seen, the pipe, whoever put it in, and that stonework was very interesting, very impressive, but I just worry that there are more of these that are going to pop up. That's all.
And I guess, in terms of precedent setting, that's the part that I'm trying to, realize. I mean, obviously, Chelsea, your hard work, that you did a lot of due diligence here to make sure we had all the facts. And that makes my, me feel comfortable in whatever vote I do from that perspective. But, are we setting something up for the future where somebody won't be as diligent as you were in terms of looking at environmental protections, looking at things? Obviously we have great evidence and, experts here that have really guided us well on this. That's what makes that tough.
I hear you. And that's part of the reason why I wasn't ready to vote last Monday, because I felt like I didn't do my homework. Yeah. But hopefully if somebody's looking at the steps that happened prior to this vote and after this vote, assuming that we support, is that they'll see then there was steps for a variance to be taken, and nothing else tied into that. They'll see what we put in the motion and the conditions, and they'll see that it wasn't just, here you go. Obviously we can't help who takes the positions after us and who's going to be in Dennis's position, after Dennis moves on. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll stick around for a long time. I don't know.
You're younger than Peter, right? Peter said he was old.
That's right. And
Younger than
I told Chelsea I was impressed. I actually wanted to know what her career was in, because she's good. we
Yeah,
spend
I
a
am
lot of
too.
time looking for these things, because we want to make it foolproof as well. We put effort into this, because I don't want someone just to ask for variances either. So that's important. Thank you.
If there was an environmental concern, Safdar, and Dennis was saying it doesn't, there's concerns from an environmental perspective and it doesn't meet that
Right.
qualification, then I think that would be a good reason
Yeah.
not to do it.
Absolutely.
And part of it is
this
also
is
looking
new.
at alternatives,
Right.
for the new
Mhm.
construction.
I don't want to push
Nope.
a motion if you're not ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, Nancy, are you ready? Okay, so I'm going to move that the Board of Health approve a variance for 16 Meadow Lane for the septic system with the following conditions. One, that nothing comes back on the title search from town council. Two, that the owner pursue an easement with the town for the existing drain pipe. And three, that nothing else tie into the existing drain pipe.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And Malinowski, aye. So that's 3-0. Good luck to Peter and Bill with your project, and let us know if you need anything else from us. And I would just say in the future, I think it'll be helpful if either Dennis or Heather get whatever area it's relevant to, get a copy of the abutter letter before it goes out, just so that we cut down any confusion.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Peter.
Bye-bye.
I don't see anybody else in the audience for public comment, so I think we can skip that one. And I'm going to move that the Board of Health adjourn at 8:14.
Okay.
Do
Do I have to second that?
Yeah.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco. I thought I was missing a step.
And I vote aye.
It's
Okay.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right.